Hey everybody, Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm chatting with Joe about his 2012 Chevy Silverado. Joe, thanks so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Of course. So to go over your setup, Joe is driving a 2012 Silverado 1500. He's got the fuel vapor wheels in matte black. These are 20x10s with a negative 18 millimeter offset, making for an aggressive stance. For tires, he's running BF Goodrich all-terrain TAKO2s, and these are 265/60 R20s, or 32x10-inch tires. And then for suspension, he's got the Rough Country 6.5-inch suspension lift kit with the front Vertex coilovers and rear Vertex shocks. So Joe, the truck looks great. I was looking at the pictures earlier before we got on here. I think it's pretty cool. It's got a nice stance to it. So my first question is, what made you go with this type of setup? Was there an inspiration or a purpose behind your overall build?
I used to drive over-the-road trucks, so I like to sit high. So that's why I went with the lift kit and everything on it.
Was there like a specific usage in mind? Like you knew you were going to be doing off-road, or was it just, I want to sit up high and tower over people?
I want to sit up high.
Let's dive in and talk about these wheels then. So again, for wheels, you're running the fuel vapor in matte black. They're 20x10s with a negative 18 millimeter offset. So that makes for a pretty aggressive stance. So what do you like about this wheel? What drew you to it initially?
I went on American Trucks looking for wheels, and I was just flicking through the wheels, and when I saw those, I just liked the way they looked. And I always liked deep dish. And when I started looking at them, I really didn't want my wheels to stick out underneath the fenders, but I went with the 18 millimeter offset, and it made them stick out a little bit, but not that much. And I really liked the looks of them.
Was there anything else that you were looking for at the onset? Did you specifically want black wheels? Were you looking at different colors, different like thinner spokes or anything like that?
Well, I had silver wheels on my truck. And I don't know if you noticed in the back window of my truck, it has Army retired veteran. Well, my truck, whenever I started working on my truck, the more I started working on it, the silver and the black themes started to come out. So that's why I wanted them black wheels.
So safe to say that you're pretty satisfied with how these look on the truck then?
Oh, yes, I love them on the truck.
I want to talk about the stance a little bit too, because you kind of talked about that already. So because this is that negative 18 millimeter offset, you've got a pretty aggressive stance, and it does stick out a little bit from the fender. Probably, what, about an inch or so? Something like that?
About an inch and a half, yeah.
Okay. I guess my question really is, you said you didn't really want too much poke, but you ended up with quite a little bit of it anyway. Was that just sort of a compromise with, I really love the style of these, or was there just something you were like, I'm okay with that, I'm just gonna get them?
Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna stick out that far. When we put them on and they stuck out like that, the front wheels actually stuck out more than the back wheels did. And I had to put a spacer behind the back to get them to even out. And then I thought, it really didn't look that bad. I liked them. I don't want them out any further than that.
Now, how big is the spacer that you put on the back?
I put a 2-inch spacer on the back.
Okay, and that pretty much evened it out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So again, you're running BF Goodrich all-terrain TAKO2s, and these are 265/60 R20s. So these run to be about a 32x10-inch tires. So that would have been an increase over what you had stock, right?
The stock wheels were 18-inch, and I wanted to go with a bigger tire, but I didn't want to go to where I'd have to like cut out the fenders and all that. So that's the biggest tire I could put on without anything rubbing. So that's what I went with.
What made you choose that tire specifically?
I had a 78 Chevy Blazer. Ooh. And I had them on my Blazer. And I had a 8-inch lift kit on that Blazer. I like the way the tire looks, and I like it because it doesn't have that road noise when you're driving with it, and they last a long time. So
they're pretty quiet on the highway then?
Yes.
Okay. Do you notice any because sometimes an all-terrain, or especially with like a mud terrain with something that's really, really aggressive, they get a little bit of like bumpiness, especially at lower speeds. Do you notice any of that?
No, none. That's another reason I like them tires.
Did you notice any kind of difference in the ride and handling with these? Is it grippier? Does it feel any different from what you had stock?
A lot better than stock. It just seems like they do grip better. They just ride a lot smoother.
Have you had any experience like taking them off-road or going through some nasty weather with them?
I never had a problem with them tires on bad roads.
Again, since you upsized the wheels and tires, since these are bigger than what you had stock, Have you noticed any error with the speedometer or odometer?
No.
Let's talk about the suspension then. I think this might be one of the coolest things that you did, not to disparage your wheels or anything. So again, you're running the Rough Country 6.5-inch suspension lift, and you've got the front Vertex coilovers and the rear Vertex shocks. So these are the remote reservoir ones, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think those are pretty cool. So this is like, it's a pretty complete setup. Did it end up being the 6.5 inches of lift that you thought it was gonna be?
Pretty much, yeah.
What made you go with this setup and this size of lift, as opposed to, say, the regular shocks and struts, or the 3 or 4 inch lift?
I actually wanted to go higher. The thing with my truck is my dad wants to ride in my truck with me. My dad's 88 years old. And if I would have went with the 8-inch lift, he'd have never been able to get up in it. So that's why I went with the 6.5. And the coilovers, I really didn't, I was looking. I was like flicking through on American Trucks and Rough Country, and I found those. And I said, man, those would look good. And I actually, when I originally bought them, I bought them because of the looks of them. But after we installed them, I was really impressed with the ride that I got. I'm glad I got them.
How does it compare to what you had stock then?
It's a lot smoother. Like whenever I had the original shocks on the truck, if you hit a bump, you felt it. With these here, it's like riding the Cadillac.
So have you had a chance to, like, have you played around with the adjustments on the reservoirs?
Yes.
How big of a difference does it make?
I wasn't sure. So I started out, like, it has a setting from 1 to 8. And I wasn't sure how it worked out. So I started in the middle with around 5. And I kind of liked it. So I tried at 6. It seemed a little bit rough. So I turned it down to 4, and now it seems real smooth.
Did you do the wheels and tires first or the suspension first?
I did the suspension first.
And you don't have any rubbing issues or fitment issues with them, correct?
No, not really. The only problem I did have with them at first was underneath the front of the front bumper, there's that little splash guard, and they did catch on that for a little while, but it kind of like wore just the little corners of them off, so now that doesn't rub anymore.
So it was really just like a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Given everything that you've done, are you satisfied with how the truck is, how it drives, with the whole setup?
Yes, I love my truck. I was telling my dad, there's not enough money in this country to buy my truck.
Knowing what you know now, having lived with it for a while, is there anything that you would do differently?
Actually, no.
What else is coming down the pipeline? What are you thinking next?
You know what? Right now, the roof visor is the only thing I can think of.
All right, well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing the story of your truck and talking about your setup here. So for everybody who's watching at home, again, Joe is driving a 2012 Silverado 1500. For wheels, he's got the fuel vapors in matte black. These are 20 by 10s with a negative 18mm offset, making for an aggressive stance. For tires, he's running BF Goodrich all-terrain TAKO2s. These are 265/60 R20s or 32 by 10-inch tires. And for suspension, he's got the Rough Country 6.5-inch suspension lift kit with the front Vertex coilovers and rear Vertex shocks. So Joe, thank you again so much for being here with me today. Thank you all for watching, and remember, for everything Silverado, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.